Okay. All right, everybody. Hello and welcome. It is Wednesday, March 18th or Thursday, March 19th, depending on where you may be dialing in from in this world tonight or today. You're here for how to optimize your LinkedIn profile for the 2026 job search. And so, as you may be well aware of, we are now about 2.5 months into 2026. The job market has not gotten better. We've seen layoffs caused by both AI and not AI. And of course, finding a job seems to be harder, but there are ways around it, such as optimizing your LinkedIn profile so that you can be seen by recruiters and be seen by the people who are making decisions. And so today we are proud to announce and have this webinar with Leslie Lulham, founder of Introly, and Tessa Grashuis, a career and job search strategist. They're both very experienced in the HR field and also in the recruiting field and have lots of experience helping people search for talent as well as evaluating LinkedIn profiles. So please have your questions ready, be ready to learn, and so forth. In the meantime, we are recording this webinar, so you will see a follow-up here in the next few days on our YouTube channel, which I'll share in a moment. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. All right, so without further ado, Leslie and Tessa, I'm going to hand it over to you, and thank you again for spending time with our community and being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Albert. So happy to be here with Tessa, who is an absolute master in the recruiting and job strategy space. So before we jump in today, Tessa and I will introduce ourselves, and I am going to share my screen. Let's see. Can everybody see the presentation? Excellent. All right. So, for those of you that I have met before on one of Albert's list webinars, it's lovely to see you again. As Albert mentioned, I am the founder of Introly and co-founder of Sunup Operations. Introly is my latest venture. I've been working on this company for just over a year now, and the goal of Introly is to really help job seekers and client seekers alike dive into their LinkedIn first degree connections in a more meaningful way to help them take the referral paths to finding roles and clients. We know referrals convert. The data speaks for itself. And as I'm sure Tessa can attest, when you're applying to a job via a referral, it's much more likely that you'll get that first interview and progress through the process. And I will hand it over to Tessa to introduce herself.
Thank you, Leslie. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk about this and just to be here with you, just in general, talk about LinkedIn. So yes, my name is Tessa Grashuis, and I am a career search, or excuse me, a career strategist and job search expert. I actually come with a little over 12 years of recruiting and talent, HR experience. I worked in tech for over 6 years with some larger companies. And I developed some talent programs as well, which was really my bread and butter, was the creation of all of that, which led me to starting my own business a few years ago and landed me partnering up with Leslie as well, which has been such a joy. So it is truly the passion of my life to work in this space and work with hardworking and just really other passionate individuals about bringing some meaning to their career and finding those jobs and really working through some of the things that we as recruiters know and because we've lived and breathed it for so long, but other job seekers who have worked outside of that theater of recruiting just aren't aware of. And it's a really big pillar of my business to be able to share those things with you, which is one of the reasons that I'm here with Leslie today.
Yes, awesome. I can't say enough good things about Tessa. All right. So, what are we going to cover today? We're going to chat through how to frame your LinkedIn so that you want a recruiter to stop when they hit your LinkedIn. And so, we're going to talk about writing headlines that get attention, banners and headshots, formatting. How do you format your experience so that you're not hitting somebody with a wall of text? Building your network and why that's important for recruiting, and small tweaks you can make to your profile today some AI prompts that you can use, and then we'll leave the floor open for as many questions as y'all would like to ask us today. So, first line, headline. That's the first thing a recruiter sees when they hit your profile. So, Tessa, from a recruiting standpoint, do you want to share what you see when you look at a headline and what you look for?
Yeah, headlines are a big one. And it's not just like who you are, what you do as a job or, who you are personally. The reason why it's so important, especially in today's AI-driven job search landscape, is because not only is it searchable when a recruiter is looking for particular words in, the job description that they're hiring for, or maybe a skill set or a certification, something of that nature, but your headline follows you everywhere you go on LinkedIn. So if you're on your LinkedIn profile right now, for instance, and you're looking at different comments on posts, the first thing you'll see is the person's photo, their name, and the first couple words of their headline. So you get that snapshot. It's a really valuable piece of real estate on your LinkedIn profile. So it works really twofold for you. It's that exposure as you start to have more activity on LinkedIn in general. And it's really what recruiters and LinkedIn are crawling for when they're using LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the back end of LinkedIn that recruiters and hiring professionals use to go on and search for you. So they are looking at the job descriptions, the skill sets, like I said, maybe a certification or something really specific. They're searching that terminology, and especially when you have it in your headline, and we'll talk about this a little bit later too, as it populates further throughout your profile, it's going to boost your profile in that search query. So it's really important, which is why it's such valuable real estate in your job search, and you want to use it really strategically.
Yes, you want a recruiter to see your profile picture, your name, and your headline and decide, I'm going to click on this person. And that's what
Yes.
your headline is doing on a first impression basis. So let's look at some examples of headlines, strong versus weak headlines. We really want to answer the question the recruiters have. What can this person do for me? Right. So I see it all the time. People will include their title as their headline, or open to work, or something very general like an experienced professional. And we want to reframe that for recruiters to something strong. So, what is your role? What is the outcome? And like Tessa just said, those keywords. We want to be using keywords as much as possible. If you've joined some of my other webinars with Albert's List, we've talked about the importance of keywords, and essentially I call it fighting AI fire with AI fire, and really making sure that those are everywhere that you can organically work them in, right? Um, so, Tess, is there anything you want to add here? Otherwise, I'll go into an AI prompt.
I love that you said fighting AI fire with AI fire, because something that I'll say in this moment in time is very similar. Like it's like the battle of the AI. Like we use AI to solve a problem that then creates a problem that we use AI to solve again. And it's like a really funny way to put it, because it's kind of true. And as far as like weak headlines, I love that you put examples here, because especially the first one, that's probably the most common one that I see. And it doesn't feel like it would be incorrect. It's just not as strategic. One of the things that you want to keep in mind when you're doing your headline is not just your most generic title, but there's a reason why you have a certain number of characters that you can use in that headline is, maybe it's software engineer, but you're a principal engineer or embedded software engineer, specific to tech companies with a focus on, like back end. You want to start to use those keywords in your headline that are not just the generic software engineer, because that is going to keep you a little bit lower in the pile. Another thing I'll say about headlines is play around with it a little bit. Something that LinkedIn really likes is activity. They're a social media platform at the end of the day, and they want your activity. So if you can adjust your title and tweak it here or there every so often, along with the rest of your profile, which we'll get into more, um, it's going to serve you quite a bit.
I think I'm missing a piece of this. So there is a non-shown portion of this that was talking exactly to what Tessa said, which was test 2 to 3 variations of your headline over a couple weeks. And you can see which garners more profile views, and kind of test it out that way, which feeds the activity algorithm side of LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So here's a prompt that you can use. This takes 5 minutes. AI is great for helping us brainstorm what to put here. I remember before we were all using AI to write this, my boss was like, "You need a better LinkedIn headline," and I was like, "What?" He's like, "Go write something like startup-y and fun," and I sat there and racked my brain for longer than I care to admit, and then just started looking at other people's profiles and seeing what they put in and kind of got myself there this way. But AI can make that 2 seconds. You can pick a couple variations, pick what you like, and then try them on for size. So let's see. Something funky is going on here. Oh, what happened? I don't know what's going on with this. Um, Hang on, guys. I'm gonna fix my presentation here. Something funny is going on. It's showing on 2 different screens as different slides. That's odd. All right.
You're good.
That's, you know what? Murphy's Law, always.
While
Okay.
you're fixing that, Leslie, I will give another perspective too for using AI for headline creation. I've used it. I mean, AI it's in the world. Like I use it in my business. I'm just a one-woman show. And when it comes to the job search, like there's some really strategic ways to use AI, specifically like a chat GPT, something like that. Leslie had mentioned that back in the day, like a few years ago, before we had it, we would write our own our own headlines. And I did what Leslie did, which was go to a handful of other people's profiles who had jobs that were similar to mine and that were also aspirational, like they were headed in the same direction that I wanted to go. And I would mash those up. I would take inspiration from those profiles and those headlines to be like, oh, I like the way they worded this. This seems really practical for me. This makes sense for me. And I would come up with my own headline. The beautiful thing about like a tool like ChatGPT now is that you can take those headlines, say you pick 3 to 5 that you like and are aspirational and relevant to you, and you also, feed the tool what you have going on in your career. It can give you some suggestions based on that a little bit quicker that are also search engine optimized. Obviously, we never want to plagiarize or take credit for work that isn't ours, but it's a really great way to mash those things together and get some different options.
Absolutely. I don't know what happened, but we're just going to keep rolling with it as it relates to the presentation. And just so everyone knows, after this, I will be sending out this deck. So if you're want to copy down the prompts and everything, they will be delivered to your inbox after this. Next up, though, we're going to talk about banners and headshots. There's a lot to unpack there. Uh, Fun fact, profiles with professional headshot get 14 to 21 times more views. So we want to make sure we have something visually eye-catching on our profile, and your picture, your profile picture and banner are really key for that. I will say we have some what works and what doesn't, right? We want to make sure no party pictures. We don't want pictures of ourselves with a solo cup from 20 years ago as our profile picture. So something professional. It can be you outside, a nice looking picture. You want to be looking approachable. I've seen a lot of angry looking profile pictures, which, I mean, I get it. The job market is a whole situation right now, but try and look approachable and friendly, make people want to talk to you. Keep it pretty recent, within the last 2 to 3 years. And like none of those pictures where you kind of cut your friend out of it, you can see a ghost arm around somebody. You want it to be of just you. Um, what not to do, don't leave it blank. Use this real estate, especially your banner. They're very easy to create. You can go into Canva. You can create a free Canva account and use that to create a basic banner for yourself. They have tons of templates you can choose from. They make it very easy. This is another place to reinforce your headline and what you're doing and what your skills are. And don't stress out about it too much. It's not, unless you're going way over the top with it, you just want something there. Tessa, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I like to describe this portion, which I'm happy that we're talking about this. There's a reason, right, that we're talking about this in this particular order, because this is the top of the profile. And if you are familiar with any type of, like journalism, copywriting, or just this phrase, that's the above the fold section. That's really going to make or break the skimming of a recruiter because they're going through so many profiles, especially as they're doing their searches when they're using LinkedIn Recruiter on the back end and they're running these searches based on keywords, location, all of this stuff. They get a list pulled up on the right-hand side of hundreds of profiles that populate from that search. And they might not see your banner in that section, but they see your headline, your photo, and a couple of like small pieces of small snippets to tell them whether or not they should go into your profile or not, based on that search. So that's another reason why that's so important. The second thing with the banners and the headshots, yes, especially with AI, we can use some really great tools to get like the professional style headshots with AI. I've used them. It was like $20 and they, populated 200 of them and I got like four solid pictures where I just like actually looked like myself. The other pictures were like I just like it didn't look like me. But the rest of them were pretty good. And it's a really easy way to get a relatively like simple professional headshot. Um, and one of the reasons you want to avoid overly serious, overly polished, or heavily filtered is in this day and age, that's an indicator of a bot. Now, can they use real people's photos? Yes, but they're more likely in the recruiting space, what we've seen and what my colleagues have seen, to be bots when those photos look really polished and really, really filtered. And you can't control everything or really anything that a recruiter thinks when they come to your profile, but you can put your best foot forward. And this is the way that you would do that, is having that approachable, like Leslie said, image that's going to be your profile. And the banner is such underutilized real estate. Like it's so underdeveloped when I go to people's profiles. And Canva makes it really, really easy to reinforce what you have going on with your experience. It's not necessarily searchable text, but one of the things you want to keep in mind with your LinkedIn profile is relevancy to your career and the job you're searching for, and redundancy. Redundancy equals safety in the human brain. And the more the recruiter experiences you scrolling down your profile and they're seeing these positive signals reinforced, the better that is for you. And that starts from the top because that's what they see first.
Absolutely. And I think the most surprising fact to a lot of people is how long a recruiter spends on your LinkedIn profile and why it's important that we're optimizing all of these. The next thing we're going to talk about is how to optimize the formatting in your experience section. You have 5 to 7 seconds from a recruiter standpoint with your LinkedIn. So you want it to be catching, you want it to be authentic, you want them to be able to scan it quickly and make their decision, because that's when they're going to make their decision. They're going to look at your resume, they're going to click on your LinkedIn profile, and then they're going to move on to the next candidate. And when they move on to the next candidate, you want that recruiter to put you in the yes, keep talking to this person pile. So and one thing I did want to circle back on that Tessa was talking about is kind of the authenticity and the friendliness factor of your profile picture, at least, and not having it overly polished. I've had so many conversations lately around authenticity and how many of us get reached out to by so many bots on LinkedIn on the daily, like hundreds of messages we get. And the ones that seem to be stopping people are the ones that actually sound like a person wrote them, that look like it's from a real profile. I just sent one. I'm not recommending everybody do this, but I sent out a message. I was typing too fast. I hit send before I could proofread. Don't do what I do. It had typos. But the person I was reaching out to was like, your message just stopped me and made me want to respond because I could tell it was a real human. Right. And so we want the recruiters to have that impression when they're viewing your profile too. All right. Let's talk about the experience formatting. A couple of weeks ago, Tessa and I think maybe we ranted instead of politely discussed LinkedIn experience sections because it's very common to write these in big blocks of paragraphs. And for some roles, it's appropriate. You see that at higher level C-suite people kind of just put a broad summary story of what they've been up to. But for non-executives, you want to make sure your experience is broken down into actions. What did you do? How did you accomplish that? What impact did you drive? The metrics are huge. Tessa, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, we're drawn to data, to numbers, and especially with the way that we intake information now, skimmability is really important. Something that I'll tell my clients when we're writing this section together, because this and the about section starts to kind of trip people up a little bit because you're like, oh, I have to articulate what I actually do. And it's hard to do that for ourselves without like word vomiting all over a page. And one of the ways that I encourage people to think about it is less of a New Yorker article and more of a BuzzFeed article. Because when you look at BuzzFeed, it's usually got like some like numbers, or it's more skimmable, it's more bite-sized pieces of information. And when you read a New Yorker, it's like wall-to-wall text. And when it comes to your profile, because that skimmability is so important, you want it to read more, lean more on that skimmability factor. One of my favorite tips that I give my clients now, also very underutilized, because if you've looked at this section, you know you can't use like bulleted formatting or anything like that on LinkedIn. You can use emojis to do that for you. So you can use like black boxes or arrows, stars for any metrics that are really important. You want to keep it professional, of course, don't overdo it, but that's a way that you can break up the text and make it a lot more skimmable than just like listing everything in paragraph form. It might be very rich and informative, but it's a lot less likely that it will be seen when written that way.
Definitely, definitely. We're going to look at some examples of bullets. So we did not put the giant long experience bullets here, but if your experience bullet is 3 lines long, you probably want to go and shorten that. But also common things that we see on LinkedIn and also resumes is very broad, generic bullets. So managing social media, for an example, working with cross-functional teams, helped grow the company, right? These are pretty broad and you really want to show what you did there. So if you did work on social media, what did you do? Grew Instagram from 2K to 18K followers in 6 months by launching a weekly video series, or cut the project cycle time by 30%, aligning these cross-functional teams. Revenue speaks volumes. Did you contribute to the ARR of the company? So things to think about. And here's a prompt, right? It'll help you get to that point. I know sometimes, especially when you're going and trying to think about work that you previously did, what are those metrics? AI can help with that. You can plug in your existing bullet point or all of them. It can do them in bulk. And then say, rewrite this bullet using action verb, what I did, how the result with the number. Now, which sometimes is helpful and sometimes is hurtful, especially in like ops roles where it's a little bit more nebulous. It's harder, like, what was the exact metric? I was kind of working behind the scenes. That is also where AI can help you. You can say, I work in an ops role and this is what I did. What are some impact metrics that I can show? And it will help you brainstorm them. And if you can't remember specifics, that's okay. Your best estimate is fine, so long as it's not wildly outlandish, where maybe your previous employer would see it and go, what? There's no way they did that. We want to be truthful, but being able to show those metrics is very important. And then Tessa, I'm also curious your thoughts on this, because I do also work with folks who maybe don't want to put some of these metrics on their LinkedIn's where it's public to everybody, but they're more comfortable including it on their resumes, because that's more of like, you're applying for a specific role. It's okay to show this data to these people, but we're not shouting it from the rooftops on our LinkedIn profiles. In my opinion, that is okay because they're still utilizing your resume, but curious your thoughts on those as well.
I guess my first question, if that were me, my first question is tell me more about why you want to withhold that from LinkedIn, because there could be really viable reasons for that. It's
Yeah.
totally understandable. Putting those on the shelf, I just like anything, I think that there's pros and cons to it. And some of the pros are if you wanted to keep some things a bit more confidential, or if you didn't want to allude on your LinkedIn that you were looking for a job. That like that could be a reason. Something that would give me pause with that is kind of why not? And especially in more of a digital age where we're seeing resumes are not at all obsolete, but there's a bit more of a reduction because they don't send the same signal as they used to, because there is such a um recruiters are being so inundated with applications, real bots, anything like that. And so they are using tools like LinkedIn to find people proactively, and they can't come across your resume proactively. That's something that's inbound. So if you are, passively looking for a job or even aggressively looking for a job, I would recommend thinking through those pros and cons of what better suits you when listing some of these things on your LinkedIn, because you can be found on LinkedIn. You will probably have a much harder time being found through your resume. And numbers speak to recruiters and leaders because numbers are tied to money. And at the end of the day, that's a big part of what a company cares about is their growth and
Mhm.
their employees' contributions.
Definitely. Some things I was thinking of were revenue numbers in
Yeah.
private companies, like check your offer letters, make sure you're not sharing anything against, I was going to say your company's TOS, but your company's employment agreements. But there is nuance there, but when the recruiters are actively looking for folks on LinkedIn versus inbound, it's a completely different ballgame from a recruiter's perspective too.
Yeah. And like that's kind of what I was thinking of, like more confidential things, especially the more executive you are at a company, it can get a little bit dicier there. So case by case, but I've hired some executives in my day, and it was just kept confidential. They could be, whether it was a client of theirs or something, they would put like confidential client or something, and they would just generalize their outcomes as much as possible. I certainly would never advise somebody to, go beyond that or be uncomfortable. And just considering how you can be creative and still helping yourself in your job search while not, of course, betraying any confidentiality.
Really,
We
and
don't want you to do that.
don't betray confidentiality. I do want to shout out real quick some of the conversation that's happening in the chat right now for excuse me, For folks who can't put numbers, maybe it's ops people. I already talked about this. There's a lot of people talking about outcome-based proof. That is great. Like these are all great call outs from you guys, focusing on impact that isn't necessarily tied to a number. So wonderful, wonderful chat happening right now. Let's move on to strategic network building. And this is really my sweet spot and something Tessa and I were also recently chatting about, making sure that you have connections on LinkedIn. Recruiters actually look at this. It's not just a thing that we're like, oh, you should connect with people on LinkedIn. It's showing that you do have connections. And I would like, Tessa, I know you were talking about this. I want to hand it over to you from a recruiter perspective. Why is this important? And then I can talk to it on the Insurely side of how this helps you in your job search.
Yeah, connections and strategic network building are really important in this market. They always have been, but especially in the market that we are in, where that I think people are just like really craving that authenticity and like the human connection because AI is everywhere. But it's not when I see people talk about network building and connections and building your connections list, it's kind of just like a what and not necessarily like a how or a why. And the reason it's so important, a couple of different reasons actually. So first on the numbers, like on the number side, for your LinkedIn profile, you want to get it to that 500 connections or more milestone. There are reasons for that. First, it shows LinkedIn that you are a legitimate profile because somebody who's just created a bot like yesterday and they have 30 connections and no profile photo, like that is signaling to LinkedIn like that's it's suspicious activity. But it starts like in mailing a bunch of people, that's suspicious. And we don't want you to be flagged by LinkedIn. So the reason you want to build that connection list is to build that legitimacy in the eyes of the actual platform. Another thing is the more connections you build, the more people you are able to send in mails to. Not spam. Please don't spam recruiters on. You're not going to get anywhere. I'm just going to like cut to the chase. It isn't going to help you. There are strategic ways to in-mail recruiters, and maybe that's a topic for a different day, but it allows you to in-mail people because you are connected with more individuals. And thirdly, just the human piece. I mean, when I was a recruiter, we loved referrals, connections. You know, we would vet them just like, you know, any other candidate. But when you had an excellent employee who did good work and then referred somebody that they used to work with that they vouched for, you know, and the type of work that they did, we would want to interview them. And the same thing matters today. You've probably heard, you know, terms like ghost jobs or, you know, situations where hiring managers won't post jobs at all. That's absolutely happening. I've got people in my network who work in tech where they have positions open, and because they get flooded with so many applicants, they don't even post the job. They share a link with the hiring manager so the hiring manager can share it with people exclusively in their network, and then the recruiter will do the same. And you know, there are opinions one way or another on that. The fact is that it does happen. And you want to be able to have a strong network of people who are meaningful, you know, within your career and the journey that you are like aspiring to, especially in a volatile market like this one, where it's much harder to just apply and get an interview and get a job. It takes a bit more strategy than that now.
Definitely. So you've got your profile, you've got your headline, your banner, your profile picture, your experience is all, everything has been redone. And now you're like, oh my gosh, how do I get to that 500 mark if you're not there already? Who are some people that you can connect with? Former colleagues and managers. LinkedIn does make it very easy to find people that you previously worked with. That's a great place to start. Recruiters in your target industry. If you go into LinkedIn and you type recruiter, you will find a list of them. Look where they're working, especially if they're at target companies of yours. Just sending a request to them. We'll talk about how to reach out in one column over from this slide. People at your target companies too. What teams are they on? You know, get on their radar, alumni. A lot of alumni groups exist on LinkedIn. You can connect with folks there. If you're at conferences or you're networking and you're meeting people, those are all people that you can keep adding into your LinkedIn connections, and those will start to grow. And as you grow your connections, LinkedIn's going to show people to you that you might also want to connect with, and that makes it very easy. So, how do you reach out to these people? I get these questions a lot, especially from job seekers, whether they're connecting with somebody new or messaging someone in their network that maybe they don't know, but that works at a company that they're trying to apply to. You want to make sure you're personalizing your request. We don't want to start our requests or our messages to referral people who could refer us, unless if it's like your best friend, you can just totally write I need job and they hopefully help you get into that referral pool. But something easy, I could say, hey Tessa, I see that you're in the career space, always looking to connect with great professionals in that sphere. My motor skills are slowing down. And now I get those all the time, and I'm like, oh, they actually kind of looked at my profile. um Keep it short. LinkedIn connection requests don't let you go. I think it's 200 characters in the I've been like writing a novel, and it's like, stop. I am an overly wordy person. I will be the first to admit that. I do use my AI tools to help me get a little bit more concise. And it's okay to follow up too. Especially in a message, but you want to wait a couple of days. We don't want to be spamming people, especially recruiters. If you over message a recruiter, that's a good way to ensure that they probably don't want to talk to you. So don't do that. And now you're connecting with people. This means the LinkedIn algorithm is going to start surfacing your content to these people. It kind of prioritizes it. So, especially on recruiter posts, I would say if you see or company posts, try and leave a thoughtful comment on what they're saying. Leave a reaction. They'll see your name pop up in their feed. So there will be a little bit of recognition there if it becomes regular, or maybe they just looked at your resume and they're, oh, Tessa just commented on that. Why do I know that name? They might go into their ATS and search for you. You never know. ATS, applicant tracking system. Make sure you're trying to post regularly if you can. You can turn on open to work. This is a touchy subject for some, because if you're at a current company, putting that open to work on can feel scary. LinkedIn gives you the recruiter only option. It's not going to put the big green badge on your profile saying you're open to work. But that does show recruiters. I know a lot of recruiters who will look for the open to work people first, because if they're looking to hire, they know that person is already looking and would be more likely to move into a position at their company. And creator mode is great. If you don't have creator mode turned on your profile, it gives you much deeper insights into your posts and how they're doing, and you can kind of see generally who's looking at the things that you're posting and who your content is reaching. Tessa, anything you want to add there?
One, I will say with with the connections, like sending a connection request and getting approved, especially if this is somebody who's like a warm connection for you, maybe they were like a teammate or a manager, somebody that you actually do know, you connect with them on LinkedIn. If you no longer work with them and you are trying to maybe get a referral to a company that they work at, or a referral to another connection of theirs, if they don't have something available, maybe you go through the referral process. There's a way that you could follow up that kind of still keeps that warm. I did this with one of my clients recently where he was referred by somebody that he used to work with. He went through the process. He ended up not getting the job, and he was just like, oh, I kind of want to know what I'm doing wrong. I just want to have a conversation. We're like, yeah. I was like, yeah, just message her and try to get a cadence maybe. This is somebody who's a mentor of yours, and ask her if she's open to like just 30 minutes with you, and talking about her career and the company that she works for and how she likes it and some of the things that you're aspiring to. Building that human connection is more of a long game, but it can really pay dividends later. And I always say the easier you can make it for the other person, the better. So if you want to connect with them on like a virtual coffee chat is, kind of the jargon that people use, be like, are you open to 30 minutes? Here's a couple times I am available. If any of those work for you, I'd be happy to send you a Zoom link or something like that. Make it as easy as possible for them. You're much likely to get a result. Longer game, but you can build a much stronger connection that way.
Awesome. All right. Some small tweaks you can make to your profile in one sitting, or you can piece them down. They take 5 to 30 minutes to do. So we talked about the main parts of your profile. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I do want to leave some time for Q&A, but setting up a custom URL, that's very easy. If you don't know how to do it, log into your profile on the very right side of your page near the top. It's going to say create your custom URL. Easy. LinkedIn.com/first name, last name is very easy. If it's taken, you can riff on it a little bit, but that also looks much nicer when you're putting your URL into a resume or into an ATS. About sections, right? We want to make sure we're also focusing there, right? First person, lead with your value. It's like an expanded headline. Think about it that way. Add in those skills and endorsements. Recruiters do use that flat, like what skills does this person have? That's huge. Location, this is big for job searches. Set to your target city. That will help you get picked up. I'm sure I see it every day because I do a lot of job reports. It will say remote from anywhere out of Los Angeles, California, right? And so the way that they're getting posted, kind of like what recruiters are going to search for, you might consider adding that if you haven't. You have that featured section right at the top of your LinkedIn profile. You can really customize that now, which is very exciting, especially maybe if you're in a field where you have to display something, an arts related field, design, UI. If you're in like a dev or an engineer, you have a code repo you want to share. You can link to it there. So use that section to really show yourself off. And also, I'm going to scroll down. Filling out every section helps LinkedIn boost it. You'll see if you haven't completed your profile, LinkedIn's going to hit you with the become an all-star until you do. It's going to show you how far you need to go. And I mean, I know I've looked at it before and just face palmed because I didn't want to do it, but it is important that you do. Anything you want to add here, Tessa?
Just on the skills and endorsements, that's also pretty underutilized. Getting endorsements for skills is really easy. It's a really nice like reciprocal thing. You can ask somebody that you've worked with, like, "Hey, would you mind endorsing me for, accounting or something? I'd be happy to do that for you." It's just literally them hitting like a thumbs up that you have this skill. And like it says here, like your top 3 to 5 matter the most because that is what LinkedIn is pulling from when recruiters are running their searches. So it is really advantageous for you to have like your top 3 to 5 skills be super relevant. Look through some of the job descriptions, think about the skills that you do have and are obtaining. That's what you want to put in those sections.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to show quickly some prompts you can use to help with some of this. Again, I'm going to email out this deck so you all will have it in your inbox. But headlines, how to rewrite your headline. Again, we like options. I like options. So write 3 LinkedIn headlines for a role who helps audience achieve outcome, right? It's very action oriented. Put that character limit on it because sometimes when you're prompting an AI tool, even though you told it it's a headline, it's going to blow it out. So this helps. Your about section, which we just lightly touched on, a first person LinkedIn about section for whatever role with X years with experience in X industry. Here are my top 2 to 3 skills. Write it for me. That one is very, very helpful. We talked about the experience one, action for what I did, how the result with a number. If no result with a number, the proof of the impact is great. And then connection requests, easy. Send a connection request to this person. This is why I want to connect. It can help you draft. Sometimes, I mean, the first messages that AI drafts sometimes are really weird. So use it as more of a thought-provoking piece, but it's there for you. And prompt the prompt. I will bang this drum until the cows come home. It's really helpful when you're doing anything in AI, but especially job hunting and using that as leverage to tell the tool you're using that it is an expert recruiter in the industry that you're going to go to. That narrows its focus from all of the experience in the world to what you're trying to do, and you're going to get much better results if you do that. I do that personally with all of my clients myself when I'm working with them on using AI to update their resumes in LinkedIn. Um, so again, these will be emailed out after this. Here's a quick checklist you can work through to make sure you have your profile in top shape for recruiters as they're looking at it. And we're going to start moving over into Q&A. I know that there are some questions in chat. Tessa and I will hang around to answer questions, but before we do that, Tessa and I have put together a very special offer today, and today is also a very, very special day in the world of Insurely. We are beta launching the brand new Insurely dashboard, which Tessa has seen previously. These job reports were delivered as a spreadsheet. Now we have a full interactive dashboard where you can go upload your LinkedIn connections, select your job search criteria, and you will have a dashboard that will show you roles at companies that you are connected to via your LinkedIn connections. It's going to show you who you know there. If you know multiple people there, it's going to show you all of those people. You can categorize it versus just a big list. And it gives you a different view of what is in your any given time. And we do offer refreshes for those. So if you want to keep those reports rolling, that is now available. Prices have dropped. This has been something that I've been working very hard on. They were well over $100 previously. We've cut prices by at least 75%. So for the less than the cost of a LinkedIn premium, you can do an Insurely account. And Tessa has graciously offered to host a group coaching session to really dive into how to use your reports, how to like navigate the referral market on LinkedIn. So you're getting both of those today with a 10% discount for joining today's webinar using code Alberts10. Make sure you put that in there. And again, this will all be emailed out, but this is the last slide. Let's stop here and move to Q&A. All right. Albert, do you have a Q&A, or do you want me to just start going through the
Yep,
chat
I've got
here?
some Q&A. Let's see. So first one is, what are your thoughts on sending a connection request to a recruiter to grow your network prior to searching for a role? How do they feel receiving a request from somebody they do not know?
I say go for it.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. Recruiters have huge networks. Actually, for everyone like on the webinar, if you're go look at some recruiter profiles in LinkedIn and look at how many like connections they have. Most seasoned recruiters, I will say, are 10, 15, 20,000 connections. They are not going to bat an eye at seeing a new connection request come through. It's very normal. So if you're in doubt, just send it. Just send a nice connection request. The worst thing that happens is they don't accept it, but they're not going to be mad at you or anything for sending it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if it's for
Um,
a job, like I know you said it wasn't if you didn't know what job you were applying to, but especially if you are about to or have just applied for a job at a company they work for, they could end up being your recruiter. Just yeah, connect with them. They might see your application the same day they see your request, and that just doubles your chances. Like anything could happen. It's not weird. It's not weird at all. When I was a recruiter, I got tons of requests.
all right, next question. Do you recommend always listing the experience like you did with what I did first? I've heard it is good to front load the bullet with the result first.
I I think this is could be a matter of opinion. I always recommend putting the impact metric. If you have a number earlier in your bullet point than later so that the recruiter sees it first and they don't have to keep reading. They're like, oh, they did all this awesome stuff. I'm starting to lose interest. And there's a number at the end, like grew revenue by 300% by blah, blah, blah. That's my recommendation if you want to structure it like that. And also, not every bullet point in our profiles or resumes are going to have numbers. That's just a fact. It's like it is what it is. Put the bullet points with the numbers as the first bullet points in your experience. Don't put them at the end.
Yeah, I agree. Your highest impact bullet points, you want them to be in your top 3 to 5 because that's what they're going to see.
Gemini informed me that LinkedIn is using a new algorithm for 2026, and the order of skills in the new skills section is now weighted, and the first few count more. Is this true, or was Gemini hallucinating?
That's funny. If I understand the question correctly, you're saying that the first few skills listed are weighted more heavily than the rest of the skills. That's correct. In my
Okay.
understanding, that as far as I know, that's correct on LinkedIn.
Let's see. How key is the verify feature for candidates on LinkedIn as far as from a recruiter perspective?
I think that it verifies like your location, and I think like that you are an actual person. It wasn't as important a few years ago. I would say it doesn't hurt to have it now because there are so many bots and so many fake profiles, and there are scams that run around on LinkedIn. And if that's something you're comfortable doing, it's not going to hurt you.
Okay. If you're reaching out cold, is InMail better or a connection request?
I have thoughts, but
Ooh,
Leslie, I answered the last two, so I'll let you.
I I think this might come down to personal preference as well. I like both. Send me a connection request and send me like an in-mail. That's totally fine. But I do feel like if you're not careful with in-mail, it like we get a lot of spam coming through in-mail too, so you want to make sure it's not buried. I would personally prefer a connection request with a nice little note in it for a first outreach versus a very long message. But Tessa, what are your thoughts?
It depends. I have a couple of different thoughts here, because it can be a little bit nuanced. So first, LinkedIn has put more and more of its in-mail capability behind a paywall. So if you are not connected, I think you get three. You used to get 10, and then it was five, now it's three. So if you're not connected with somebody, with a connection request, you can only send three in a month. So in that case, only if it was really a perfect person to reach out to. We'll talk a little bit in the group coaching session about in mailing for like the next step using the roles report. So that is something that we'll cover too. But in this case, what you could do, there's a couple of different hacks. So definitely send the connection request because that doesn't cost you anything. If you're on the free version of LinkedIn, and it's somebody that like dream job, you just applied, you're perfect for it. This is the recruiter. Feel free to send them like a very human message. You don't want to say, "Hey, I applied, I need a job." You want to make it a little bit more human than that. And then the other thing is if you this is a hack. So LinkedIn is usually like, "Hey, do you want to try premium for free? I think maybe you want to try premium." Do a premium trial. I think it gives you 30 days. Use that to you get more access to people who viewed your profile, number of in-mails, and people that you can in-mail, I believe, as a part of your connection request. So do the 30 days. Have a clear plan before you use it so that you don't kind of, waste that time period, but use that time to send some really friendly in-mails. Something, "Hey, I've been keeping up with this company. I love what you guys are doing. Would love to stay connected with you." That's it. Don't ask them for a job that you'll never hear from them again.
All right. Well, wow, we answer questions and more come in. I love it. I'm gonna skip down around here. So, do you think the premium subscription helps in the job search? Does it show you first to recruiters or increase your chances?
I used to be wholeheartedly yes, in this camp, but less so recently as I've been working with job seekers who have been on the job market for a long time. Where is it helpful? It can you can see what percentage of applicants here, and I always thought that was helpful. You get a little bit more insight into the job itself, and I mean, any leg up, right, we can get in this job market is worth it, but it's also spendy. Their prices have gone up quite a bit. The capabilities that they used to have, they're paywalling more and more. So if you do want to do LinkedIn Premium, like absolutely try it out. Is it 100% necessary? Not necessarily. Wow, that was a very redundant two sentences there. But give it a try. Use the free trial. I've seen it. You cancel, and then LinkedIn's like, we'll give you another month for free. I'm like, okay, I'll do it for free, but I'm not paying $70 a month or whatever
Hmm.
some of them can cost. But Tessa, what's your take on it?
In my opinion, for a job seeker, LinkedIn Premium, like the juice is not worth the squeeze. It's pretty pricey. My clients have not been on LinkedIn Premium. We've been able to find jobs, get interviews, and things like that. LinkedIn heavily prioritizes activity above all. Um, and the more you use the tool and engage with the tool, the higher you will populate on those searches when recruiters are looking for you. The more that you engage, the more that you update, and connect with people, engage in mailing, things like that. That is ultimately what they want. They'll never stop pushing LinkedIn Premium. In my opinion, it's not worth it because it's not catered specifically to you. You are getting the same features that anybody else with LinkedIn Premium would get, as opposed to, say, like what Introly does is it looks at your specific network and it's like, here are jobs specifically that are open within people in your network that you are connected to. That a tool like that, even just from a recruiter standpoint and somebody who works with job seekers now, is far more impressive than LinkedIn Premium that just has a suite of the same features.
All right. For those with 15 years plus of experience, how far back in your work history should you have in the experience section?
Oh, I've got into so many debates on this one. Everybody has a different opinion.
Hmm.
I say on your resume, keep it to 2 pages. I think the hard and fast rule of don't show anything over 15 years, I don't agree with that rule. That said, on a resume, you can like put previous experience and kind of take out the dates because we do want to eliminate age bias. Okay. That's a thing. Take your graduation dates off of your education, and you can kind of make a more general the past. This is what I did in the past. That said, on LinkedIn though, I also am totally fine with people expanding their history. That real estate gives you more keywords that the profiles can pull from. You can go a little bit deeper. Like don't stop at 15 years. If you have relevant experience going back further, I say put it on there. A lot of people agree with me on that. A lot of people disagree with me on that. Tessa, what's your take?
I agree with you. That's exactly what I would have said. Um, because your resume is it's like an annotation of your LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn is your entire history. It has you can have recommendations. Like I wouldn't delete recommendations from 10 years ago that someone wrote me because they still exist that are on my LinkedIn profile. It's a different kind of tool. LinkedIn is a different type of tool than your resume. You don't have 15 pages that you can um, send in for your resume, which if you do, please trim them. The hard and fast rule about like the page limit of your resume, this I actually don't care a whole lot about within reason. Basically, if your resume is 2, even 3 pages, if you are a high level executive and even if you have trimmed things down, um, your recruiter or leader might not look at the rest of your resume, but what it does is it it just further legitimizes the breadth of experience that you have. They might skim it and see like, oh, they started as, a manager and then a senior manager and then VP. They're seeing it, but they might not be reading it as much. With LinkedIn, that's just giving more data when recruiters are searching. So it's okay. It's okay if it has the entirety of your career experience
Something
because
Tessa
that's her
just
view.
mentioned here, like really nailed that. Like a recruiter, we're gonna look at the first page of your resume. That's where we're gonna spend our time. We're gonna like flip to the second one if there is one and give it a quick, okay, cool. Maybe you get like 0.75 seconds. We're not
Mhm.
gonna be like, oh no, your resume was too long, unless it's 10 pages. Like, don't do
Yeah.
that. And then on LinkedIn, also, if we know a recruiter is only spending 5 to 7 seconds, maybe a little bit longer if your profile is really good, if you go look at folks on LinkedIn who have a ton of experience, you still have to click to view more experiences. A recruiter isn't going to be clicking through all of that. So it's not heavily visible and it's not a big deal.
All right, let's see. Um, how should you position your headline if you're looking for different but adjacent roles? I work in product marketing, but I'm looking to pivot to customer experience, but I'm also open to staying.
Interesting.
That's a good question. I would be curious of your experience in product marketing as it relates to customers and who you've served, because you could mash those together. We would wordsmith it together, but like product marketer, primarily focused on the customer experience and something like that, where you could start to bridge those two things together, depending without any other information, depending on where you are in your career, the type of work you have done. You could start to emphasize more of those other customer skills and experiences and tailor your LinkedIn and resume more toward the customer experience side. Those are two things that I would recommend is you could start to play with your headline to bridge those things together, highlight the area of your career in your experience that has been really customer focused. So you can start to pull in some of those searches and then also expand on it in your experience section. And you can also start to say, pivoting into customer experience or, passionate about the customer experience, something of that nature. Very general, but that's where I would recommend starting. But Leslie, what are your thoughts?
I was thinking along the where is the overlap between the
Hmm.
two that you want to highlight? Because if you're not sure, you don't really want to alienate yourself from either of them. So where do they sit together? Where do they complement each other and focus there? And that will give you more leeway to be able to apply to both sides versus picking a lane, but also if you're in a mode of applying to, let's just say, customer service, you're going full customer service mode. I do recommend, like Tessa said, you kind of customize your LinkedIn resume to look more that direction. Or if you're like, hey, I want to stick in the product marketing, do that. If you're not sure, then kind of the hybrid approach with the overlap would be best. So you're not ruling yourself out of any, but the overlap is key. And that's when I'm working with career changers, also going from one industry or even role to another, we focus on like what transfers over and we highlight those skills.
One other thing I'll add there too is eventually you will want to choose which lane. LinkedIn will work at its highest potential for you when you've picked a lane. Whenever that feels aligned to you, it's entirely up to you. Once you decide which direction, it will start to generate a lot more momentum and result for you.
Excellent. All right, so we're running way over. How many more questions can I ask? Because we keep adding them.
I'm good to go for a little bit, Tessa.
Yeah, I could do
Okay.
another 15 minutes. We could go to the half hour if that's okay with you guys.
Oh, how generous. And there's still 59 people here in the room, so everybody who left early, I don't know, maybe there are more surprises when it comes to Introly. Um, how do I move to another industry but have been in IT for over 15 years? Uh, Actually, I don't know what you're asking. How do I move to another industry? I have been in IT for over 15 years to have I'm not sure. David, if you want to re-ask that question, please ask. Can you have two different LinkedIn accounts? No, I think that would be against their terms of service. Let's see. How do you build your profile as a student and with no experience yet? What are your recommendations in building a resume, writing posts, and what should we prioritize?
Ooh, I love this question. I actually started my recruiting career working with students. So I love that you're thinking about LinkedIn already because the earlier you start, you'll probably see if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, like I have a lot of my student stuff there because I started it when I was in college so I have a pretty long runway at this point, which is cool to see. You want to pull on everything that you have. So Leslie talked about like that all-star status that LinkedIn will keep being like, oh, you want to be an all-star? Like you don't get anything for it. It just like looks really good on your profile.
Satisfaction. The
Yeah,
satisfaction of
it's
complete.
yeah, well, it's just we'll celebrate it with you. It's an achievement. Um, but you can put, any sororities, any certifications that you have on there, any projects. Like I was a PR major, for instance, just speaking personally, I had some of my capstone projects on there. I listed classes from my major and minor, so it started to speak to the direction I was headed in. And any job experience that you have, internships, if you have mentors, professors or even like grad students who have mentored you, ask if they can leave, a recommendation for you on your LinkedIn, and you just start to build it. Just remember it's okay that you don't have everything, and that's totally fine. Start with what you have, and that will start to build on itself over time.
Period.
Excellent.
I agree.
For connection requests, we're limited on personalizing the message. When does it matter?
If you're connecting with people you already know, let's say that, if you're trying to be strategic with reaching out to new people that you have never met, and you're also building your network with people that you know, I would save the personalizations for the new people and really prioritize who you're reaching out to and what you're saying to them. Because, like, this is an example. I worked with Tessa like 3 years ago at a company. She's going to know who I am when I send the connection request. I don't have to explain that to her. And then let's say you have a batch and you only get so many, I think it's a week that you get on connection requests. Prioritize that. Even make a list of the people you want to reach out to and like, okay, this week I'm going to reach out to these people and so on and so forth. And then again, if you know them or they're in an alumni group or anything like that, it's pretty like I wouldn't use the limited customization you have on those types of things.
Also, in groups, you can converse with people. Like if you're in an alumni group, you can converse with them on that group, and that doesn't like even if you're not connected with them, and that doesn't cost you any in mail. So that's a way around it. If you have certain alumni groups that you're in, or like you follow companies, whatever that might be, just know that you are able to engage with people in that group, even if you're not connected. So there's a little bit of like a backdoor there.
Got it. If you were laid off, would you recommend a LinkedIn post sharing the change in job status and asking for help, or focus on more one-on-one connections?
Ooh, I have a couple of thoughts on this one. Which first off, my condolences. I've been laid off a couple of times from tech, and it's devastating. It's really, really hard. So, I'm sorry that that's something that you had to go through because it sucks. And just know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for you. In terms of posting, I personally don't have any issue with people posting about their current situation. What I do highly recommend, because optics matter, regardless of, any anger, frustration that you might feel of your current situation, which if you do is completely valid. I would recommend withholding that from the post only because that is going to repel the type of responses that you want. You want it to be very positive, very, very look forward. And, I'm grateful for the opportunities that I had. These are some of the ways that I grew or ways that I learned. I'm looking forward to my next chapter. These are some of the things that I'm interested in. You can tag people if that is relevant. I've seen that, tagging some of your mentors very strategically, things like that. So for me, and even as a recruiter, I never saw any issue with posting about that. It's a very human thing, something that we all understand, asking for help and connecting. That's what LinkedIn was initially built for. And just refraining from hostility because it's going to serve you to stay on the more positive side of the messaging.
Exactly. I was gonna say the exact like do it. It's very common now. I'm too common. I think we're seeing a lot of that, and it's
Mhm.
not bad that people are posting, but it just you see how troublesome this job market is right now. But a wise old manager once told me it is not how you start your job, it's how you finish it. And finishing your job also is reflected on what you're posting on LinkedIn. And
Mhm.
so even if you did well and maybe you had people at the company very much advocating for you, it could also turn them off from wanting to help you if they see a huge negative post about the company. So can share that you're sad or that you're frustrated, but like keep the negative speak down. And again, I want to reiterate it's valid. You're allowed to be mad, you're allowed to be upset, frustrated, sad. You're allowed to experience grief, and it's all valid. It's all 100% valid and feel the feels. Um, but don't trash talk your previous employer, even if you're super duper mad at them on that post.
How can we ID who is the hiring manager from the LinkedIn list of company employees? Hiring manager is not a job title. Do we go for someone HR or the most senior person we're second degree connected with?
I mean, sometimes it's called out easily and sometimes it's not. You can see who posted it. If it's not listed, I would go for someone on the recruiting team. But Tessa, what's your guidance?
Yeah, I mean, you can always look at somebody in the recruiting team. If you apply for the job, you see the job, say I'm working with an engineer specifically, right? One of my clients right now is an engineer. That's why this is top of mind. So we were, looking for people who worked at that company that he could connect with. And we went to the company's page. We searched for like just keyword engineer. And there was like head of engineering, engineering manager, embedded, like those types of things that can nod to that. But unless it's explicitly told to you, like the name of the person, unfortunately, you're probably just not going to know who it is. But you can have some pretty good guesses, and it doesn't hurt you to connect with those people on LinkedIn regardless.
All right. For a headline, do the first X number of characters matter the most?
I haven't counted the characters, but like, you're not going to see the full headline every time. So, like, I was actually just looking at my headline, thinking about this week. So this is a very timely question. And I said to myself, wow, I sure am glad that I put founder at Introly first instead of some of the other stuff, because that's the first thing that people are going to see. So you want to make sure, I would say, depending on how long your words are, I don't know, Tessa, if you know the character limit, I've never counted. The first 3 to 5 words, you want those to be the first impression. If you got some big impact thing you want to say it there. Don't wait till the end.
Yeah, and I would just stick to that. I wouldn't recommend getting too precious about like the literal exact characters because you have to remember that people have different screen sizes. They're on mobile. You could be leaving a comment and they see it, or they go to your profile, or there's LinkedIn Recruiter and they see a snippet. You're never going to know exactly how someone's looking at your profile and your headline. You just good rule of thumb, first few words, you want it to be the most relevant. That's going to be the best strategy for you.
Should we add randomly anyone as a connection, or should we focus on what should we focus on specifically? How do we also get rid of connections if we have a lot of irrelevant ones?
Yeah, you can purge them. You can just go to your connections. I can't remember the like literal exact steps, but I know you can go to like your profile, or if you go to LinkedIn, you see like connections on the left-hand side. You can remove your connections from certain people if they are irrelevant. If you're really starting to kick up your connections, especially for the purpose of the really cool tool, which is Leslie's Intro Roles report, you want them to be strategic connections. Don't just like randomly connect with anybody just so you can basically game the system and get to your 500 connections because it's not going to serve you. You're going to confuse the algorithm or it's going to start feeding you things that just don't make sense for you. So it's going to be a waste of your time. It would be much better for you to slowly build those connections in a way that was like relevant to you. So for the individual that asked about going from like product marketing to like customer experience or customer service, start to build your network with people who are like head of customer, work in customer experience, and pivoting it that way as opposed to just any person you come across. You can do whichever one, feels right to you. I would recommend being more strategic about it.
Definitely. And just for the quick steps to purge your connections, go to your LinkedIn profile, click on the My Network at the top of your page. You'll see connections on the left side. Click on that, and then in the kebab menu, the three dots. It like the second you click it, it says remove connection. I actually know a lot of people right now who are purging their LinkedIn connections to rebuild to be more towards who they want to target.
Mhm.
Very common. You don't, it's like any other social media where they've all pretty much taken off the Tessa has stopped following you type of thing. You're not going to be like alerting the news media that you've unfollowed someone. Uh,
Yeah.
which, hey, it's a legitimate fear. So go ahead and clean those up.
Excellent. I heard that you should refresh Open to Work weekly to increase views. Is that true?
Oh, I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard that either, actually. I couldn't say for certain about that one, so I wouldn't be comfortable answering that question. It looks like Leslie's going to do a quick spot check for us.
How did you
She's
know?
going to fact check for us.
Live fact checking.
Let's see. I'm just reading. I've got too many things on my screen right now. So it looks like it suggested um what it looks like it's more leaning towards is keeping your profile active and looking for opportunities. So I mean, I as a recruiter, I never saw when someone said they were open to work. But if it's taking an action in LinkedIn, LinkedIn likes when you take action. So if that's the action you like to take, go ahead and do it. It says here regularly updating your preferences every week recommended. Um, but it's a recruiters are usually looking at the most active users. So again, you just want to keep your activity up. I'm going to do a deeper dive on that, but I do it if it makes you happy. I don't know if not doing it's going to hurt you though.
All right. I heard you should, so like we answered that question. If you took a break, but during the break started a side venture that was not full time, should you include career break in the experience section as well as the side venture?
I would just put the side venture. You don't need to also call out it was a career break. I think in my opinion, if you want to put career break in your profile, do it because there's nothing else to put there. But you don't need to quantify it. And you know what? You also don't need to put that. It's becoming more and more common to see career breaks in this day and age. In my opinion, it requires less explanation than it even did a couple of years ago, personally. And a recruiter will ask about it. If they want to know what was going on between 2016 and 2017, why weren't you working? They will absolutely ask about it. But if you have a side venture, put that in there. That's super cool especially if you're proud of it.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Sarah, I understand. You're just wanting to know whether you should verify your profile or not. Any other questions? We've answered quite a few here today, and these ladies have been very generous with their time. And so if you haven't already reacted and given it a clap already, you should absolutely do it. Um, all right. How many job postings would be a reasonable number to apply per day on LinkedIn? How many jobs, if I apply to them, will deactivate my LinkedIn account?
Well, could you repeat the last portion of that question, Albert?
Yeah, it's how many job postings would be a reasonable amount to apply to per day on LinkedIn? And how many jobs if I apply for will deactivate my LinkedIn account?
I don't know the answer to the second part. I
I
think it
don't
would
think
be a
there's such a
lot.
thing on the second part.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
If there was, it would have to be a significant amount of applications.
I agree.
Um, and
It'd
you
have
would
to
be,
signal bot. It'd have to signal you're
it would,
using an automation,
yeah,
which is against LinkedIn's terms of service.
right. And you would be warned or you would be frozen. I don't think they would initially, it, there would be something in between and it would be a lot. You'd have to be doing a lot to signal that automation because yeah, like Leslie said, that's against their terms of service. Um, As far as like a rule of thumb for the number of applications that you should be searching for, of course, it always depends on, the type of job you're looking for, how soon you're looking to get a different job. Right now, like with my clients, I recommend that they search for at least 20 to 30 solid, relevant applications for jobs that they would want to apply to every single week, whether they want to do those all in one, which I wouldn't recommend because that's a lot, or spacing them out. You do want to shy away from rapid fire applications, even though it's tempting because the job market is very sticky, it's volatile right now. And so I understand the desire to just apply to everything and anything. And the flip side of that is it's going to still take a lot of time from you, and you're not going to be able to use that time in a strategic manner to look for the types of jobs you actually want to engage, like on LinkedIn, build the connections that are relevant to you, update your profile, tailor your resume, and things like that. So for my clients, I recommend that they submit like 20 to 30 solid applications, plus or minus, each week. That keeps us on track for them in my coaching.
And I want to flag two things as part of this. If you can apply through the referral route, those applications are going to get further. That is exactly why I built Intrally. And secondly, if you're applying to jobs at like multiple jobs at one company, a lot of I don't agree with this as a recruiter, but I don't make the rules, okay? They don't like it when you apply to too many jobs. In fact, we just built into Intrally a flag. If you apply to 3 roles within
Mhm.
the same company per week, it's going to say, hey, maybe think about this for a moment because uh, companies don't like it. And it is what it is. Maybe a couple, but I mean, if you're applying to 10 or 15 roles at a company too, like on the recruiting side, even whether or not the company feels any sort of way, like when multiple teams are interviewing the same candidate for different roles, it gets really, really tricky. under the hood. So you want to make your direction as clear as possible.
Yeah, and when I would see that get flagged for the companies I worked for, it wasn't necessarily that somebody applied for maybe like three or four different recruiting jobs. It's that they applied for like recruiter and then like also head of HR and then intro like in intro level customer service and then a sales executive. If you're just like applying to 15 different random jobs, that will flag you eventually in their system. It's not going to look good on you. And that's another reason why Leslie's tool, Rose Report, is so cool because it cuts a lot of that middle work out for you. And there are other job boards besides LinkedIn as well. Those recruiters will still utilize LinkedIn to find you and to vet some of your experience and verify that you're a human as best they can. But there are other job boards that will serve you as well.
All right, cool. One final question. Chantel, you're the last. We're not answering anymore after this. I have an independent sole proprietorship business that I was running at the same time that I was working at my last company. Should I only include my last held position in the company that I worked for, or include both the business that I have and the last title that I held? That's one of the challenges that I have, and thank you again for this presentation.
I think I have some thoughts here. I have some thoughts here. We're seeing co-employment, like multiple company employment being much more common. Um, Questions I would want to know about this situation specifically. Did your previous company have a stipulation in any of the paperwork you signed saying you cannot work at another employer while you're here? If they did, I would recommend not listing it. But if you ended in the sole proprietorship kept going, you can list a different start date, or you don't want to get yourself in any sort of legal trouble by posting that. And I would also just be cognizant that even though working at multiple companies, if they're all full time, right? That says paints a different picture than if one was part time and one was full time too. So I'd have more specific questions about that before giving a holistic yay or nay. But Tessa, what are your thoughts or anything to add?
I agree with you there. If you still have access to maybe like a company handbook, or if you're still employed with that other company, that would be by way of like a moonlighting policy. That's a common term that could be from HR. Also, congrats on having a sole proprietorship and doing a side hustle. That's very exciting. And yeah, like if I, without knowing any more information, generally I would agree with exactly what Leslie said. Some of the questions that I would want to know are, was there moonlighting policy? What was the overlap? Are they relevant? What type of business was it? Was it like a side hustle, kind of consulting part-time, or was it also full-time? Those are things that you will want to consider because the optics of that are important for you.
All right, wonderful. All right, so that's it for questions. We stayed an extra 34 minutes. This is amazing. Any final thoughts you want to offer before I shut this down and send everyone back into the world with better LinkedIn skills? And if you feel like you have better LinkedIn skills now and a better understanding of LinkedIn, type me in the webinar chat just to show that you understand. But in the meantime, yes, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Your LinkedIn profile is important. Recruiters spend 5 to 7 seconds looking at it. So make it work for you. And thank you so much to everybody who came out today, who hung out 35 minutes past start time to ask questions. I love being in the hot seat and answering. I don't know, my
And
version of
we know how
fun.
much how valuable everybody's time here is. So the fact that they're staying an extra 30 minutes instead of
Yes.
having dinner, going to bed, whatever it is, wherever they are in the world is amazing. I think I saw somebody from Nigeria, so maybe they're delaying breakfast. So,
Amazing.
Breakfast and LinkedIn session. If you all who are still here have more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love chatting with you. Tessa and I's LinkedIn's will be linked in the deck and some of the emails I'm going to be sending out after us. We want to talk to you, we want to meet you, and we want to support you most importantly on your job search.
Yes,
all right.
absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, this has been recorded. It's going to go on our YouTube channel. Leslie and Tessa will follow up with all of you. And yeah, we wish you the best in your job search and improving your LinkedIn profile. Connect with each other here on the webinar chat. I think many of you have already done that. And we look forward to having you back soon for another event. Have a great evening, everybody, and goodbye. 2:35
Thanks.
a.m. in Nigeria. Okay, all right.
Wow.
See you all soon. Bye.